Chapter 22. A Dog and a Van. Why did you go for a new van with space for 3 in the front? Susie was curious the moment Buster and I arrived at the house in our shiny new work van. Business was booming, so I decided it was time for an upgrade. Easy answer, I replied as she looked in and Buster sniffed about. It didn't seem right to have you cramped up in the back. Susie chuckled and shook her head, well aware that Buster was my constant travel companion. In the previous van, any trip meant Susie inspecting the passenger seat for dog hairs and voicing her displeasure, even though I cleaned it beforehand. But no matter, as soon as she sat down, Buster would excitedly jump in next to her, causing a flurry of exclamations. When it came time to replace the old van, I prioritized comfort for all of us. Leaving Braithwaite for lunch, I felt incredibly lucky to be with my wonderful wife and faithful dog. As expected, Buster claimed the window spot, eager to feel the breeze, while Susie enjoyed the ride without a Labrador sprawled across her. My new professional path was thriving, and with Buster contributing to the community in his own unique way, life felt rich and complete, a stark contrast to my past self and the isolated boy inside me craving affection. During lunch, with Buster resting by our feet, I silenced my phone to focus on the conversation with Susie. Naturally, Buster attracted his share of fans. It didn't bother us when people recognized him and asked if he was the same dog from online. In fact, it was touching, especially when they shared the impact Buster had on their lives. "Sorry to bother you, but could my mom meet your dog?" a teenage girl asked us as we were finishing our coffee. She was timid but earnest, and Susie and I reassured her it was no problem. The girl brought her mother over, who treated Buster like a long-lost friend. Through our chat, we found out she was bouncing back from a serious health scare. She had found joy and motivation in following Buster's adventures around the Lake District. "We decided to take a leaf out of Buster's book and step outside," her daughter shared. "It's Mum's first time out in ages." "Congratulations," I offered. "We're the ones who should be saying thanks," she responded, giving Buster a friendly ear rub. "Looking at your photos every day reminded me how important it is to connect with nature." It was moments like these, alongside the constant flow of posts and comments on Buster's social page, that really warmed my heart. Susie felt the same way about the whole experience. She had witnessed Buster's positive influence on my life, bringing in a new wave of optimism. Now she was seeing him inspiring others who were going through tough times as well. That day, as we left the coffee shop feeling uplifted, after securing Buster next to Susie in the back seat, I flipped my phone off silent mode to catch up on any missed alerts. A quick check revealed a message from a supplier confirming the availability of a part I had been waiting for, followed by a swift glance at my emails. After going through the lone email that popped in during our lunch, I slid into the driver's seat, facing Susie with an expression of sheer astonishment. "Do you recall those photos I submitted to the neighborhood contest? Is to evaluate how Buster responds to various situations. A therapy dog must be adaptable to all kinds of behavior." "Understood," I responded, silently hoping Buster would remain unfazed by any distractions, like a sudden squirrel appearance. "He's incredibly relaxed. United Kind Gum Therapy Dogs performs remarkable work, offering solace, diversion, or simply a moment of joy to those in need." I was confident in Buster's disposition and hoped the charity worker would recognize the special qualities that endeared him to me. Turning to Buster, who sat loyally by my side, the charity representative urged him to climb onto the picnic bench. Buster complied instantly and laid down upon her request. I watched from a distance, feeling antsy yet immensely proud of him. She then examined him thoroughly, and Buster glanced at me as though questioning if I had arranged this, yet he stayed remarkably calm. He didn't even flinch when she banged on the table next to him, nor when she hit it with a book from her bag. After that, she shifted from trying to scare him to drowning him in affection. She caressed, embraced, and tickled him, and Buster simply soaked up her attention. I was certain he had aced the test even before the official letter arrived a week later. He had just clicked with her. All I could do was glow with pride for him. To me, it was yet another milestone in our shared journey. With his popularity expanding online and his magazine feature raising his profile, I saw an opportunity to use his fame for a good cause. My time working side by side with my trustworthy security chief, coupled with our exciting adventures, meant our schedule was fuller than ever. I got him a red vest marked with support dog, as the charity recommended, and started taking him to visit nursing homes, hospices, and anyone else who might enjoy a moment with Buster. With his rising fame, the media started to show more interest. As I mentioned, a local newspaper had celebrated him for his calming role during a flood, and his pictures in the English Home magazine had won over more fans. The flappiest dog in the world video also attracted global viewers to his online profile, and I started hearing him referred to as an internet sensation. That always made me smile when we relaxed with Susie at the end of the day. If the fireplace was lit, Buster would lie there softly snoring or passing gas, and I'd think, yes, he's quite the heartthrob. Honestly, I was ecstatic for him, and quite content to be known simply as the owner. I didn't seek any personal attention. Then, everything shifted with a phone call. A journalist from a local lifestyle magazine who had been following Buster online wanted to do a feature on him. Believing it a chance to promote his therapy work, I quickly accepted. I thought she'd pamper Buster, snap a picture, and I'd then check the newsstand to see if they featured him. "Brandon, if you don't mind, I want to talk about you," she proposed during our meeting, catching me off guard. "You mentioned Buster was there for you during a tough period. Could you share more about that with me?" When sharing how Buster became a part of my life, I always left out the deeply personal bits. I was uneasy about admitting I had faced depression due to my ongoing pain and had thought about ending my life. I feared people might see me differently for confessing I had become extremely introverted, afraid to step outside, essentially living in isolation. In the past, anyone identified with mental health issues was unfairly labelled and avoided. Despite the times changing, I couldn't shake off the sense of shame that seemed to cling to the topic. So I kept my story simple, saying I found Buster during a rough patch, snapped some photos of him in the hills, and how he gained popularity online. The reporter sat next to me, her voice recorder on and notepad ready, having listened to everything I'd shared thus far. Now, she waited for the full story. "It's a long story," I began awkwardly. "I was in a car accident and recovering took some time." "Could you elaborate?" she pressed gently. I glanced at Buster, feeling a wave of anxiety, but pushed through it. He'd been a trooper, always patient during photo shoots or when kids gathered around him. Inspired by his resilience, I figured I could help others by opening up about my struggles. "All right," I started, pausing to find the right words, and then detailed a chapter of my life I had tried to forget. I regretted it immediately, worrying non-stop if I'd made a mistake. As I recounted my darkest days to the reporter, I danced around the term depression until finally saying it out loud. That period was marked by deep despair, yet it was only through the courage Buster gave me that I dared to confront it head-on. It was like opening Pandora's box. Susie, the reporter, was incredibly supportive, which helped. Buster seemed to sense my distress too. Whether I was out walking, sitting in the van staring out, or just mulling over a cup of tea, he'd quietly join me, offering comfort with a nudge, reminding me silently that things would get better. On the day it was released, I held the magazine in shaking hands. As expected, my article on battling depression was in there. The writer handled it with care, yet the vulnerability I felt was overwhelming. I hoped it wouldn't catch the eyes of many I knew and tried to push the thought away. That same day, messages started popping up on Buster's online page. I was apprehensive about the notifications, once a source of joy, but then I saw the responses. Everyone was surprised by my silence on my struggles, but praised my bravery for speaking out. They understood why Buster was so important to me and showered me with support, love, and encouragement. Their words brought me to tears, which wasn't hard, but it felt like we were at the center of a massive wave of kindness. As the messages kept coming, many began sharing their mental health battles too. What started as a small space to celebrate my Labrador had turned into a haven for those navigating tough periods in their lives. Whether it was a photo of Buster frolicking in the fields, bringing a smile over morning coffee, or inspiring someone to take charge of their well-being, his page had become a beacon of light and hope for many. With my story now shared, I anticipated negativity. Instead, the flow of gratitude from people opening up about their depression was overwhelming. It showed me the incredible strength of human connection, with a dog leading the way. Far from embarrassed, it felt freeing. Chapter 23. Ralph Comes About. I've always been meticulous about Buster's dental health. When we first met, his teeth were not in the best shape. Hence, over the years, I've regularly taken him to the vet for checkups. In 2017, the vet suggested a thorough cleaning for Buster. This meant anesthetizing him to thoroughly clean and polish his teeth until they shimmered. It was supposed to be straightforward. My job was to drop him off at the clinic, head to work, and pick him up later. The clinic staff are familiar with how emotional I can get about Buster's care. I've been known to shed tears over simple things like buying flea medication. I admit I'm a bit of a softie, and I'm okay with laughing at myself over it. "How will you handle it?" a nurse teased as I left Buster with them. "Just make sure he's well looked after," I responded with a laugh. "Can't wait to see his bright smile." It was a friendly chat, but as I walked away, a heavy feeling settled on me. I got back into the van, reminded that I had an appointment for work, but then I just stopped. Buster's seat beside me was empty. It was my first time in the van without him, and it made me feel empty. My hand was on the ignition, ready to start the van. Instead, I let go, took a deep, sudden breath, and cried. I managed to compose myself after a few minutes, but it was a stark reminder that Buster wouldn't be around forever. We had shared many years together. Although we were both aging, he wasn't the young pup I first knew. He still had vitality, but the thought was jarring. It brought back the pain of losing David suddenly. I was devastated then and couldn't bear the thought of going through such loss again. Moreover, Buster had pulled me from a despair so deep I thought there was no escaping it. The idea of losing him now terrified me, fearing I'd slip back into that darkness. All day at work, I kept checking my phone for updates from the clinic. I needed to know Buster was all right, but was also scared of getting a call or message indicating something was wrong. When the vet finally called to say Buster was active and well, I was relieved. Filled with hugs from everyone, I didn't hesitate to go pick him up. Reflecting on it, I can see I overreacted. But it drove home the point that life without a dog like Buster was unimaginable for me. This got me thinking, would Buster appreciate a fellow dog friend? A buddy for him to show the ropes, like how to leap off the dock, and for me, a way to keep the joy and assurance Buster brought into my life. It was clear, if I was to welcome another dog, it had to be a Labrador. The connection I had with Buster was profound, something I also shared with David in his limited time, and it's a bond I've noticed among other Labrador owners too. These dogs live for human interaction and know how to make the most out of life. With that in mind, I started searching for breeders close by. Looking up breeders became a quiet nightly habit, although I did it covertly, away from Susie's reading. "What's got your attention?" she would occasionally ask. "Oh, just browsing some site," I'd reply after a quick switch to a random website. It was a distant hope. Convincing Susie to agree on Buster was a task. She understood that having a dog was vital for me, but getting her would suit his temperament. She gave me a curious look. "Do I know you from somewhere?" she inquired. "Maybe," I replied, a bit embarrassed, and shared that I managed a social media page. "For my dog, who was impatiently waiting in the van outside." "It's not Buster, is it?" she inquired. Upon my confirmation, she eagerly suggested I bring him inside for a meet and greet. This turned out to be the perfect conversation starter before she showed me to a room full of adorable puppies that were merely a month old. They still had a month to go before they could be rehomed, but I was certain I needed one, specifically a male to match Buster. It's often said that you don't pick the puppy picks you. On this occasion, one little fellow caught my eye with his uniquely brown hind leg. Lifting him to say hello, he unexpectedly licked my nose, and just like that, I was sold. "We'll take this one," I declared, showing Buster his new pupil. After settling the payment, I spent the drive home pondering how to break the news to Susie. Even consulting Buster didn't yield any advice. Once home, I figured a direct call to Susie was best. After listening to her day's accounts, I ventured, "You know my fears about coping without Buster one day? Well, I've been contemplating a solution." "We're not getting another dog," she interrupted. "Brandon, managing two is beyond me." Disheartened, I glanced at Buster, who seemed to mirror my disappointment. It was then I realized I had to play my best hand. "You can admit I'm low maintenance, correct?" Her pause spoke volumes before she admitted, uncertain of my angle. "I don't indulge in drinks, smoking, hanging out at pubs for football, or demanding Sunday roasts." "Thank heavens for that." "I seldom ask for anything, but this time I'm genuinely asking for your support in getting another dog. That's all I wish for, but I need your approval." Sighing, she pondered over the phone. "It's not a large breed, is it?" "No," I responded, a bit nervously. "Not at all large." "And it won't cause messes or chew on things?" she further probed. "Absolutely not. Please, Susie, I promise to handle everything. Just agree to this for me." She hesitated, then replied, "I'm unsure." In a last-ditch effort, I blurted, "I'll get you a Louis Vuitton purse. Anything you desire." Her laughter echoed through the line. "Fine, then. Spend your weekend searching for breeders." "Actually," I admitted, "I've already done that. He'll join us in 4 weeks." 2 weeks later, I brought Buster back to the breeders to formally acquaint him with the puppy in her garden. I recorded a video of our meeting and put it on Buster's website. It became a sensation overnight. The following day, Radio Cumbria contacted me to find out his name. "I haven't picked one yet," I answered, swamped by name suggestions from the website's fans, "but I'll have one by the end of the week." "Make sure you do," the station representative responded. "We'll announce it in the news." It was a thrilling and somewhat hectic period due to the public's fascination. Suddenly pressured to choose a name, I found myself running out of ideas. Then, one night, I got hooked on an old cowboy movie. I've always enjoyed them for their escapism, much like what Buster brings me. Reflecting. On this, after the movie, I called the radio station the next day. "In the Star Wars realm, a learner Jedi is known as a Padawan," I shared. "Since Buster will be showing the ropes to the new dog, we've decided on Ralph Padawan." Within a day of the broadcast, Ralph's name was known across the area before he even left his litter. The evening before picking him up, excitement replaced sleep. I'd bought a small travel bed for him to sit next to Buster and keep an eye on him. Buster accompanied me to fetch him. My heart raced during the drive. Getting Ralph early was important to me for settling him in. The breeder's excitement to follow Ralph's developments on our website made the transition smoother. She was fond of the litter she'd nurtured to be vibrant and healthy. It felt special knowing she'd keep tabs on him through my posts. "Expect lots of photos," I assured her. "Good luck stopping me." Back at home, as Ralph investigated the ground floor, Susie watched cautiously. "Why do I foresee mischief?" she questioned as he roamed under Buster's supervision. Calm down, I replied. Bringing him to lunch will help him adapt to our life sooner. He'll blend right in. I hadn't thought through that. With 4 of us up front, Ralph would have to sit on Susie's lap. As we left, watching Susie hold him gently gave me hope this might bring them closer. He's quite charming, she admitted softly as we neared the cafe along the curvy road. Moments before entering through the gates, She was covered in vomit. Get him off me, she yelled, hurrying to the bathroom to clean up. Despite the commotion, my wife understood what Ralph meant to me. We had a nice lunch, with me looking after the pup this time, but when it came time to take Susie home, I chose not to leave Ralph there to sleep. He can come to work with me, I said. He has his own little bed there, and Buster will look out for him. Are you sure? She asked. Absolutely, I replied, and from that point, Ralph was by Buster's and my side everywhere we went. Unlike Buster, the first night I left Ralph in my office, he didn't take it well and started howling non-stop. I had put him in a puppy crate, giving him enough room but keeping him secure. Eventually I gave in, went down to the office in the middle of the night, let him out, and he quickly fell asleep on my lap. I felt sad for the little guy. He had just left his family and was now in an unfamiliar place with a large dog as his roommate. Finally, I managed to get him back in his crate, but neither Buster nor I got much sleep. Buster looked especially worn out the next day. The next night I tried to be strong and not giving in to comforting Ralph. I figured the sooner he got used to it, the better for all of us. So I left his crate door slightly open and quietly left the office, bracing myself as he started to cry. I hesitated near the door, ready to separate the dogs if it went on too long. But after a few minutes of noise, everything went quiet. I peeked around the corner to see Ralph crawling out of his crate, stumbling over to Buster. He climbed into Buster's basket and cuddled up against him. Buster gave me a look that said I owed him, then sighed and gently laid his head over Ralph, wrapping him in a protective embrace. Chapter 24. Who doesn't love dogs? Ralph, quit bothering Buster. Don't hang off his ear like it's a swing set. It was clear the new pup was impossible to overlook. Buster, ever so patient, endured the endless curiosity and playful antics from young Ralph. I'd come out of my office to a squeak, only to find Ralph hanging from Buster, a scene probably amusing for Ralph, but less so for my longtime pal. Though my goal was to find a Labrador pup just like Buster, Ralph was anything but a clone. He had his strengths: alert, bright, affectionate, reliable, and delightful company. But whereas Buster could adapt his energy level to the task at hand, Ralph operated at full throttle all the time. Despite their differing energy levels, Buster was an excellent mentor. They quickly became inseparable. Bringing Ralph into the social media fold was entertaining. As he grew larger and stronger, capturing them both in photos and short clips presented new challenges, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and so did they, meaning more playful times on the hills and trails. The response online, from likes and comments to personal messages enjoying their escapades, was heartwarming. Occasionally I'd get requests from people wanting to meet Buster and Ralph in person. Often these were local dog walkers, but Braithwaite is a tourist hotspot and super welcoming to dogs. Sometimes a fan of our social media would reach out, saying they were in town for a week and hoping to meet Buster and Ralph. I was always open to arranging a meet-up, feeling comfortable. These were usually families or older couples, and a quick peek at their profiles almost always revealed a Labrador among their photos. These meetups turned into enjoyable walks with like-minded people, and occasionally Buster and Ralph would find a new dog friend. However, their popularity always caught me off guard. One day I got an email from a woman in Thailand. Contact from across the globe wasn't unusual. Her message was brief and straightforward, asking about the location of Buster's popular bench photo at the top of the fells. Braithwaite, I responded. Where's Braithwaite? she asked. In the Lake District, I replied, always patient. Shortly after, another message from her popped up. Where is the Lake District? Realizing I had to give a bit more information, I replied with a nice message describing it as a stunning area in England's northwest, and then forgot about the whole thing. 2 weeks later, another message popped up. I'm planning a trip to the Lake District. Can I meet Buster? At this point, I was a bit wary. Though I never refused anyone who wanted to visit us, I was cautious. This request felt overly eager, but her profile painted her as a genuine, charming retiree with a zest for exploring. However, a part of me doubted someone would travel across the ocean just to see Buster, so I suggested she reach out again once her trip had started, thinking it was more of a polite gesture. Her next message caught me off guard with her determination. I've arrived in the UK. I'll be in Braithwaite at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Can you and the dogs meet me then? Reading this in the van, with Buster and Ralph next to me, I couldn't help. Their own challenges, which touched me profoundly. If Buster and Ralph could play such a significant role in changing lives, it reinforced my commitment to sharing their stories and adventures online. I must highlight a touching encounter with a wonderful woman named Camilla. Her daughter reached out to tell me how following my dog's adventures provided her mother, who was battling terminal cancer, great comfort. This deeply affected me. She explained that even with limited time available, her mother, Camilla, wasn't one for big dream lists. She thought of life as the ultimate gift, something to cherish fully from beginning to end. With that perspective, her daughter asked if I would help create a special memory for her mother. We came up with a plan. One Sunday, during an outing to the Lake District, her husband surprised her with a secret journey to the breathtaking mountains. There, without Camilla knowing, I was waiting with 2 boys who were very dear to her. Later, just before her time came to an end, Camilla wrote to me about that day. That message became a treasure to me, making me rethink how much of my life I dedicated to working as a joiner. My job was fulfilling, yet I was reminded of life's incredible value. We crossed the street and headed a short way to the ancient stone circle. Reflecting on the moment she met Buster and Ralph, Camilla shared, "It was enchanting, the peace of the hills, the sunlight breaking through cloud bits, and the tranquility of the stones. I had never felt such joy and peace as I did then. It was as though I had entered a different realm. Having never been a dog owner, it seemed as though these 2 were truly mine." Often people would request to join us for a dog walk. Whenever possible, I was glad to accommodate, but the growing demand led to many feeling let down. This burden grew heavy. Meanwhile, our regular gatherings would sometimes attract 5, 10, or even 15 visitors. "We need to act," I told Susie on our drive back one day, after Buster and Ralph had been overwhelmed with so much love that we couldn't even break for lunch. "The dogs bring joy, but we might get banned from the cafe if this continues." "Why not turn this into something bigger?" she proposed. I looked over at her, noticing Ralph's increasing size on her lap. "Like what?" Ralph looked back at her. Susie grinned and stroked his side. "An event," she stated simply. Coming home, a seed of an idea was planted in my mind, one that wouldn't leave me in the following days and weeks. Over lunches, Susie and I fleshed out a way to let as many people as possible meet Buster and Ralph, while also supporting a cause dear to us. I had never led an endeavour of this magnitude before, so my initial step was I decided on a cafe with a cosy kitchen garden set in a 17th century estate. It's a tranquil, welcoming spot with a view of the lake. I'm thankful for the support and approval from the people there. Once we had the location, I put out an invite on Buster and Ralph's online page. The details were quite broad since I wasn't sure of the interest it would draw. I simply asked if anyone wanted to join in on a dog walk to help raise funds for a nearby rescue centre, kicking off at the cafe. By the end of the day, Just as Google paused the page due to what seemed like spam activity, I had gotten over 800 responses. The overwhelming number caught me off guard. Knowing the cafe couldn't handle that many people, I capped the event at 75 spots. It felt ambitious, yet I was nervous about potential issues. The plan was to stroll from the cafe's garden down to the lakeside. It's a path I've walked many times, passing through a bluebell forest and over fields to a bridge. With Buster and Ralph keeping an eye out to ensure the route was safe and manageable for all, it took me about an hour to complete. I figured 90 minutes would be enough for a group of dog enthusiasts to enjoy the walk and informed everyone to meet at the cafe an hour early. With ample parking and the option for a tasty lunch beforehand, Susie and I hoped it would be a pleasant afternoon for everyone and a way to support our community. Then the day arrived, bright and sunny, shaking my confidence. "What if no one comes?" I whispered to Susie. We were sitting at our usual spot in the cafe, with Buster and Ralph calmly by our side. It's a favoured spot and was bustling as usual. Several customers had dogs with them, but that wasn't out of the ordinary. I whispered across the table, wondering if I got the dates wrong on the invite. "Brandon," Susie said after finishing her salad, "we've still got 10 minutes. Just try to enjoy your lunch." But I couldn't eat, too filled with nerves. I just drank water, keeping an eye on the time, thinking we could quietly slip away unnoticed if this turned into a blunder. "Ready?" I asked when it was time. "Are you?" "Everything okay?" Susie asked. I looked down to find Buster and Ralph gazing up at me, eager for their adventure. "I've got the best company," I responded, getting up. "Let's go." As we got on our feet, the cafe suddenly quieted down. Then, in the blink of an eye, everyone started standing up. Dogs perked up, wagging their tails eagerly as their owners hurried into their jackets. Outside on the patio, a chorus of excited barking filled the air. I exchanged a look of disbelief with Susie. "Congratulations," she beamed. "Let Buster and Ralph lead an unforgettable walk." People had travelled from every corner, from London in the far south to the distant Shetland Islands. It struck me just how powerful social media could be. I had hoped for 80 participants but hadn't anticipated extras tagging along. The walk morphed into a spectacular gathering of over 120 people, supporting a cause that helped dogs find new homes. Buster and Ralph shone like celebrities, setting the pace with such enthusiasm that all the attending dogs happily followed. Every dog behaved impeccably, a testament to their owners, making the event deeply enjoyable. Our first fundraiser only hit one snag: my miscalculation of time. Guiding a lively crowd, keen on enjoying the beautiful surroundings to the fullest, especially once a bunch of cheerful dogs followed Buster and Ralph into the lake, meant our 90-minute stroll extended well into the afternoon. Though it ended much later than planned, it couldn't have been more successful. Chapter 25. Life can be so good. Life was sweet. My new calling as a window installer filled me with joy, as did my time spent with Susie. Buster and Ralph, distinctly different in their natures, had forged an unexpected friendship that fit seamlessly, much like pieces of a puzzle. Their online presence flourished, and our charity treks from Lingholm turned into a staple event for dog lovers. Organising such events was no small feat. My aim was to ensure a delightful experience for all involved. This entailed coordinating with the cafe and maintaining a respectful stance towards nature. With over 100 participants and their furry companions trekking through the countryside, it was crucial to me that everyone did so with respect and returned home feeling fulfilled. Our expeditions continued to gather funds for local charities, drawing participants from across the region. This influx was a boon to local accommodations and pleased the tourism board to no end. They even appointed Buster and Ralph as the official doggy envoys of Braithwaite, elevating the status of my security chief and his eager understudy. This accolade caught the eye of the local media, resulting in coverage on the regional news. It was all very exhilarating, and my pride in my boys knew no bounds. Their zest for life was truly making a positive impact. Naturally, the spotlight was on them during the news segment, and that suited me just fine as I discussed their philanthropic endeavours with the journalist. Then came the difficult question about the accident and its ensuing depression, a topic I had reluctantly broached in a previous interview. Discussing mental health feels incredibly personal and leaves one feeling quite exposed. Yet, the more I talked about it, the easier it became. The support was overwhelming, with an outpouring of encouragement via Buster and Ralph's website and countless messages from those inspired by my journey, ready to tackle their own struggles. We all treasure dogs for various reasons. For me, their presence has always been comforting, but undoubtedly, encountering Buster was therapeutic, a beacon of hope during bleak times. Initially hesitant to articulate this feeling, my perspective became clearer as I shared my story on the walks and online, following the magazine article. Despite the intimidating glare of the TV camera, I strove to be as candid as possible about my ordeal through those dark, heavy years. It was challenging, but deep down, I felt it was the right decision. Opening up, as just another person facing life's battles, felt profoundly liberating. If someone could find light in their darkest times through their dogs, then maybe that insight could resonate with others. I hoped to show that there's always a glimmer of hope, even in the darkest times, often in the form of pets that offer us their unwavering loyalty and affection. As the story spread online, the response was overwhelming. People began recognizing me because of my dogs, stopping me on the street to express their admiration. Some shared their own struggles, while others, beside them. Assuming a small turnout with maybe a local newspaper photographer, I accepted the invitation on behalf of Buster and Ralph, not realizing the magnitude of the event. "The press has called me 3 times for an interview," I marveled to Susie as the event neared. "People online are even considering coming from afar to see it." "I was in town earlier," she mentioned. "Did you see the stage set up?" "The square," I said, feeling a bit queasy at her news. Good thing was, I always had Buster and Ralph to pull the spotlight away from me in these big moments. "Count on it, you two," I told them. "Just a simple switch flip." Luckily, someone smarter than me figured dogs can't really do that. Instead, they had me bring them to a cockermouth rehearsal space to test another method. "It's a box," I remarked as they showed us the dog-compatible gadget. "Not any box," the head tech pointed out, coaxing Buster to jump on. With my encouragement, Buster did, and the box lit up red. "Aha!" he beamed. "It reacts to pressure." "Wow," I observed as Ralph tried next. "And this will switch on the Christmas lights?" "No, I'll handle the actual switch," he admitted, which was a bit of a letdown. But I knew Braithwaite's people would still find it magical. "It'll be fantastic." As the big day arrived, my nerves were shot. I avoided even a peek at the square, despite everyone from friends to fans saying they'd be there. I mostly acted like it wasn't happening, but as evening approached, avoidance was no longer an option. I prepped Buster and Ralph, stressing their simple task. "Just jump on the box when it's your turn. Braithwaite's Christmas relies on you." Ever since adding Ralph to the mix, some misunderstanding folks from Newcastle thought a comedy troupe was lighting up, coming here in a van for the occasion. Knowing they were out there just before showtime did nothing for my nerves. Glancing in the mirror, my reflection was ghostly. "Just pre-show jitters," Susie said as we geared up to leave. On our walk, we encountered a neighbour coming from the square. I inquired about the scene. "A few folks are there," she informed. I looked at Susie, anxiety mounting. Maybe we should just go back home and forget all this. But Susie took my arm, leading the way forward. She looped her arm through mine. "Let's go," she urged. "We must not dawdle." Our path to the square zigzagged through several streets, gathering more followers with every twist and turn. I pondered whether our neighbour had downplayed the potential crowd, or if Braithwaite had another event that night. The excited wagging of Buster and Ralph's tails suggested they too sensed the gathering excitement. It wasn't until we veered into the square and encountered a mass of people before the stage that reality hit me. Buster and Ralph were the stars meant to illuminate the Christmas lights, drawing a large audience to partake in the festivity. The winter market stalls brimmed with merchandise, and a towering tree stood proudly at the centre, creating a scene both enchanting and overwhelming. Navigating to the VIP area required some effort, but upon arrival we were warmly welcomed by the technician and the event's MC. "Who will do the honours?" the MC inquired, glancing at Buster and Ralph, who seemed hopeful for a snack. "Let it be a surprise," I replied, genuinely unsure myself. Our entrance was met with enthusiastic applause. As my nerves morphed into jelly, I struggled through a brief chat. Then, with Buster and Ralph ready in the limelight, I retreated and joined the crowd's countdown. My focus was on Ralph. At the right moment, I signalled him, and he leaped onto the box, triggering a wave of applause as the square burst into a dazzling display of Christmas lights. It was a sight to behold. After Ralph's successful leap, I embraced him and Buster tightly, proud of their achievement and the community's support. The MC then shared that anyone interested could meet Buster and Ralph across the square. Heading off stage, I caught sight of a little girl with 2 toy dogs, offering her a smile and wave before a security staff guided us through the crowd. The meet and greet was a hit, drawing individuals from all over, including a cheerful group from Newcastle who, except for their designated driver, indulged liberally at a local pub. It was a real treat getting to know them, and it was wonderful to see all the people lining up to meet the dogs. The young girl clutching her 2 stuffed dogs also made an appearance with her mum. She sat beside Buster, gently petting his ear for around 15 minutes. Though I knew others were waiting, she seemed so captivated. "She carries those stuffed dogs with her everywhere," her mum explained, finally persuading her to leave. "Their names are Buster and Ralph." The next morning I got a touching message online from the little girl's mom, thanking me for letting her daughter spend so much time with Buster. I was thrilled to respond, expressing my happiness, and sent them a calendar featuring the dogs I had made that year. A few days later, I received a video clip from her mom showing her daughter looking through the calendar, her eyes filled with amazement. It was a heartwarming exchange, and through it I found out that the girl was struggling at school due to her dyslexia. It had affected her confidence and worsened her eczema, but she had found solace in her 2 stuffed dogs, inspired by our webpage. Then, a week later, her mom shared that her daughter had written a poem about meeting Buster and even won a local competition with it. That news was incredibly uplifting. According to her mom, this achievement was a big step toward regaining her confidence, all thanks to the influence of my dogs. Not long after, the girl, her little brother, and their mum joined me for a walk. She brought her stuffed dogs, peering out from her backpack. It was heartening to see her so energized by Buster and Ralph. Later, her mum shared that they had adopted a golden Labrador puppy, which had been a game-changer for her daughter. In just a few days, her eczema had completely cleared up. Isn't that wonderful? Chapter 26. And another one. And then there was another. By this point, sharing my journey had become second nature, shedding the armour that once kept my feelings sealed away. Now wearing my heart on my sleeve, becoming overwhelmed with emotion was no longer an intimidating prospect. This newfound openness was something I revelled in, much of the credit going to Buster and Ralph for steering me through this change. Witnessing its effect on others wrestling with their challenges was profound. It seemed to say, if a regular guy like me could navigate through depression with the help of his dogs, then anyone might share their own saga. Dogs, I've observed, are exceptional at breaking the ice. Following charity walks, folks approached me, finding it easier to delve into personal matters. Often they'd pet the dogs while unveiling their most sorrowful tales, ending our conversations with a hopeful smile. While their issues weren't magically resolved, initiating these dialogues, supported by two affectionate labradors, sparked a sense of hope. Meanwhile, the online hub dedicated to Buster and Ralph blossomed into its own vibrant community, buoyed by numerous contributions centered around positive ideals. Visitors were drawn to the site to catch a glimpse of two joyous dogs enjoying the countryside, leaving with their spirits lifted a notch. I was under no delusion of performing miracles through the site. My aim was simply to continue documenting our lives through uplifting photos and videos, spreading the love that overflowed for my beloved Labradors. I never overly emphasized their breed, knowing well that any considerate dog could offer solace during tough times. As the site's popularity surged, encounters with strangers wanting to express their gratitude became a daily occurrence. Receiving over 10,000 emails, I was reminded of the profound bond between humans and dogs. Blessed beyond measure with Buster and Ralph, their presence enriched every moment. They were more than I could ever ask for in companions, prompting the surprising notion within me that perhaps one more would complete the perfect trio. I can't quite articulate the reason, I mused, but somehow 3 feels like the ideal number. Bringing this up to my wife, Susie, brimming with a newfound boldness, I noticed the immediate resignation to a future of perpetual mess. Our home renovation timing couldn't have been more ill-conceived. Brandon, I'm not sure about this. Susie's response wasn't the outright dismissal I anticipated. Instead, it was tinged with puzzlement and a hint of openness, a sliver of possibility, rather than a closed door. I was set on winning her over. I almost forgot, I said, pulling out a wrapped gift. Buster and Ralph have a little something for you. Susie saw right through it. I wasn't trying to win her over with gifts, just wanted to show her I valued her patience with my intense love for these dogs. Is this an attempt to win me over? She asked, peeling off the wrapping. I'm not one to be won over. Oh, a new iPhone. The idea to try again came from Ralph's breeder. She mentioned planning one last litter from his mother to Larry. That was my cue to sign up for another puppy. It would be a younger brother for Ralph and another trainee for Buster. Susie was searching up names for our new family member on her brand new phone within minutes. I was set on a male, feeling it was the right choice. Once the puppies were born, our only task was to choose. The breeder playfully hinted she knew my pick when she called to set up a visit. I'm leaving that to Susie, I said, wanting her to have a say this time. Over the years, my wife had warmed up to the chaos of living with Labradors. It was a wild ride, but filled with love and loyalty, something she couldn't overlook. What about this one? Susie suggested, holding a puppy. We arrived just as their eyes were opening. He's got a brown leg like Ralph. The breeder shared a knowing smile, as if confirming he was meant for us. Susie passed the puppy to me. Around my feet, a throng of puppies vied for attention. Holding him close, I couldn't deny the familiar marking he shared with Ralph. Do we choose you? I asked, looking him in the eye. The puppy's response was a swift lick on my nose. That was all it took. I've always believed Buster and Ralph were dignified, strong names. I couldn't settle for anything less striking for the new addition, not something mundane like Spud or Dave. If he was anything like his brothers, he had big shoes to fill. As his arrival drew closer, Susie and I deliberated on the perfect name. It's a significant decision. Do we pick a name that fits a puppy, one he'll grow into, or one that reflects his personality? Finally, on the day we visited, we landed on a name we felt was just right. With people on social media, I shared a snapshot of our adorable new addition, expressing my dreams for his future. Buster has been my hero and a beacon of joy for many. Ralph Padawan came next, quickly mastering his role while wreaking havoc on bargain store toys. We're incredibly proud of both, for who they are and their deeds. Our new puppy, on his naming day, opened his eyes, eager to embrace the world. Small as he is, a life of growth and adventure awaits him. We named him Robin Williams, after the comedian whose laughter and warmth reached millions, from kids to the elderly. His open struggles with depression and mental health have inspired countless others. He stood for hope and bravery, having battled depression as I have. Could our little Robin encourage even one person to talk about mental health, or cheer up someone feeling alone? Maybe he'd motivate a kid to ditch the screens for real outdoor adventures. Robin became part of our family just after Christmas, joining Buster and Ralph. Though he had his bed, he'd often nap in Buster's, while the others cuddled elsewhere. Post-walk, they'd all curl up together. These 3 labradors formed an unbreakable bond, filling me with joy. Robin quickly grew into a strong, lively and noble young dog. Kind-hearted with a jovial spirit, he now promotes the PDSA. His school visits are moving. He's incredibly patient with children new to dogs, offering comfort and friendship. From Buster and Ralph, Robin has learned to be an excellent therapy dog, even mastering the leap off jetties. Initially wary of water, his curiosity grew watching his friends swim, until he bravely joined in. Robin's photogenic nature shines, whether he's sitting on a bench or posing on a hill with his pals. Watching him mature into the largest of the group has been a delight. They always make sure I'm okay during walks, bursting with energy. I make sure to capture these moments. Pulling out my phone, they naturally strike a pose, a spirited, though slightly clumsy, performance, and the public adoration for these pictures is overwhelming. Whether it's a quick laugh at Buster's funny moves or a momentary break from the everyday hustle, it's evident that dogs have a significant impact. This insight hits me deeply. The aggressive salesperson that I used to be has slowly disappeared, giving way to someone who's discovered serenity and joy, partly because of these dogs. In moments that can appear bleak, our furry companions bring pure love, happiness, and optimism. Buster, Ralph, and Robin have brought brightness into my life, and I hope they can continue to illuminate the lives of others too. Whether it's these lively trail runners or any dog, there's a valuable bond to be formed, one that can endure forever. It's just about making the connection. We named him Robin Williams, after the comedian whose laughter and warmth reached millions, from kids to the elderly. His open struggles with depression and mental health have inspired countless others. He stood for hope and bravery, having battled depression as I have. Could our little Robin encourage even one person to talk about mental health, or cheer up someone feeling alone? Maybe he'd motivate a kid to ditch the screens for real outdoor adventures. Robin became part of our family just after Christmas, joining Buster and Ralph. Though he had his bed, he'd often nap in Buster's, while the others cuddled elsewhere. Post-walk, they'd all curl up together. These 3 labradors formed an unbreakable bond, filling me with joy. Robin quickly grew into a strong, lively, and noble young dog. Kind-hearted with a jovial spirit, he now promotes the PDSA. His school visits are moving. He's incredibly patient with children new to dogs, offering comfort and friendship. From Buster and Ralph, Robin has learned to be an excellent therapy dog, even mastering the leap off jetties. Initially wary of water, his curiosity grew watching his friends swim, until he bravely joined in. Robin's photogenic nature shines, whether he's sitting on a bench or posing on a hill with his pals. Watching him mature into the largest of the group has been a delight. They always make sure I'm okay during walks, bursting with energy. I make sure to capture these moments. Pulling out my phone, they naturally strike a pose, a spirited, though slightly clumsy, performance, and the public adoration for these pictures is overwhelming. Whether it's a quick laugh at Buster's funny moves or a momentary break from the everyday hustle, it's evident that dogs have a significant impact. This insight hits me deeply. The aggressive salesperson that I used to be has slowly disappeared, giving way to someone who's discovered serenity and joy, partly because of these dogs. In moments that can appear bleak, our furry companions bring pure love, happiness, and optimism. Buster, Ralph, and Robin have brought brightness into my life, and I hope they can continue to illuminate the lives of others too. Whether it's these lively trail runners or any dog, there's a valuable bond to be formed, one that can endure forever. It's just about making the connection. Chapter 27. I have healed. Ralph and Robin have turned our charity walks into continuous triumphs alongside Buster. We've set up many fundraising efforts, drawing in larger crowds each time. It's wonderful to witness so many individuals and their pets coming together for a good cause. While the events are usually dominated by labs, collies, and seapringers, we're open to all breeds, even pugs. Together, these three have helped raise more than $77,000 for various charities. Reflecting on their impact often moves me to tears. They've become a formidable force for positivity. One day, as I was going through our mail, I spotted an envelope with a striking seal. "Susie," I called out, amazed. "You've got to see this." I excitedly showed her the invite that had surprised me. "We've been requested to lead a charity hike up Scaffell Pike." "Really?" She left her desk to see. "Seriously?" She took the invite, which acknowledged our fundraising work, and asked us to head their next significant event. "I'm over the moon," I shared as she read, "but it says nothing about the dogs coming along." "It's not a dog parade, Brandon," she laughed, sensing my unease about leaving them behind. "Buster has been my constant companion since we adopted him, and Ralph and Robin have never been away from me for too long." "I'm not keen on going without Buster," I confessed. "He's been central to every donation we've gathered." Susie pondered the invitation. "It doesn't outright say he's not allowed," she pointed out. Feeling hopeful, I called the event organizers and described Buster's role as a therapy dog and his distinctive red jacket for such events. "Does that count?" I asked, fingers crossed. Thankfully, they accepted. Buster could attend as a therapy dog. Although it was sad not to bring Ralph and Robin, this event was to spotlight Buster's crucial involvement. I arranged for the younger dogs to stay with Teleri, their breeder and our friend. Knowing they'd be well cared for made leaving a bit easier. On the event day, Susie, Buster and I headed to Penrith early, planning to catch our train. Finding the car park full was stressful, but Buster's serene nature helped us stay calm. We parked across town and managed to hail a cab to the station. Buster was a sensation on the train, soothing the usual travel anxieties of fellow passengers. His calmness and affability brightened everyone's journey. Upon our arrival, a reporter was there to greet us, interested in Buster's unique role in the walk.